Hey, everybody, and welcome in. It's the Poor Man Fantasy Football League podcast. We're the fantasy football show that gives you a peek inside the life and times of our Dynasty League. I'm your host, Mike. With me, as always, is my friend Andrew, and we have a special guest today, Josh, aka TheMultibeasts, because this show is going to be a doubleheader. We're going to do the AFC East Divisional review. We're going to look at how we predicted things way back in the summer when Josh was on the show with us last, and we're going to do our year-end award show. We're going to hand out some accolades for some decisions that we made, typically poorly. It is Wednesday night, February 12th. I got the date right correctly in the notes. Look at that. Planned ahead. First off, Andrew, how you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
I feel way better now that I've had a couple days removed from the hangover. Celebrating the Super Bowl was not good the next day.
How? You didn't work the next day.
I did not work the next day, but I was up far too early. I took the kids to school, came home, did a bunch of chores because I had a honey to-do list. Then I went and had my nap. Then I got up and did some like work on a side project, and I was rough. Went to bed early. Tuesday, good. Now I feel normal again. Anyways, we'll talk about it in a second. Josh, how are you doing? It's been a long time since we've had you on the show.
Yeah, good to be back. Good to see you guys. We were talking, my wife and I, during the Super Bowl, and why does it always have to be a Sunday? I mean, I guess it's football Sunday, but imagine if it was a Saturday night. You could really cut loose. Knew you had the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it happening.
No, I don't see them making that move, but that would be, they should just make it a national holiday.
Yeah, Monday off.
Yeah, Mondays. Federal holiday.
That would be nice.
Hey, you know what? Trump is a football fan. He was there. He was at the game. Maybe this is something that we could put out there. One thing you would want from Trump, this would be the one thing I'd ask. Can you make the Monday after the Super Bowl a holiday?
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk Super Bowl. Andrew and I, we got together. We celebrated. We had some drinks, ate some food, made some bets. We made a bevy of bets. I'm just going to show you. This is what the front page looked like. We had our sub notes on the back side. Several bets did not come to fruition where we tried betting on how many yards would Saquon Barkley get. Answer is not enough to be relevant. So, all in all, though, just to give you guys a quick heads up, Andrew and I finished tied at the end of that whole like betting all 38, 39 of these things. We finished dead even. And there's a couple that are actually kind of awesome that I want to give a shout out to you, Andrew. You picked the exact score in Q2 and Q3.
Thanks.
Yeah. You had it, obviously not for the correct teams, but you had the score. Yeah, so that was a big one to me. That like we didn't have to do a plus or minus. You dead on. Yeah. Game MVP, we were both off. I thought that was funny. I picked Mahomes, you picked Barkley, and it was Jalen Hurts. Yeah. We both dissed on Xavier Worthy, except for a couple points where I did take him as my flex play, and he got me 31.7 points. Didn't think he'd show up like this, but he did.
Big game.
Other things I found as a surprise, we only had 2 official sightings for Taylor Swift. The over-under was 6.5. You took the over, I took the under, and was regretting my decision. She only showed up on TV twice. And the second time, she was booed, so I don't think they wanted to show her again.
I mean, if Kelsey's not catching the ball, it gets tougher to pan to her.
It does.
Exactly. That's the sad Taylor Swift.
Have you guys seen any of the Philadelphia celebrations? Like the rioting that occurred? No?
No.
It's some pretty good videos of people going absolutely bonkers and ripping down street signs and causing mayhem and destruction. And yeah, you know what? Our team won, so let's destroy the city we live in. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know that this is a popular take, but I do respect Eagles fans. Man, they love their team.
They do. They are passionate.
They do.
Yeah. Wild in celebrations. That to me, it would be terrifying to be stuck in that crowd, seeing what they were doing. I've lived through what we call the Red Mile when the Calgary Flames made their Stanley Cup run, and we had tens of thousands of people jammed onto a tiny street. But that was chill. That seemed laid back. Granted, there was lots of nudity everywhere, so that probably kept us all pretty tame. And then a couple years later, when the Oilers made their run, I was up here at Edmonton, and Jasper Ave, similarly, the rioting and looting that took place as this team was making their Stanley Cup run. They didn't even win, but just leading up to it, people were climbing buildings and ripping off power lines. It was chaos, not nearly the same vibe. And then when I saw pictures of Philadelphia, I'm thinking like, wow, we had essentially like a 3-block radius. This was probably a 50-block radius, the entire downtown of Philadelphia just in chaos. So my scope is tiny. Theirs is massive. So for me, that would be terrifying.
Yes, it's not just for football. They're fanatical about their hockey team, their basketball team, their baseball team. It's just a big sports town. So imagine if they took all 4 crowns, the city would have to rebuild itself.
Hey, that's how you get your infrastructure rebuilt. You win all the championships, you burn it to the city to the ground, and you start over again.
I guess so.
All right. Okay, folks, there is some football news. I'm not sure who put this in there. It wasn't me, but I do find it funny. Who put that in there?
That was me.
That was you? Okay, then you break the news and you let people out there because I know one guy who still has them on his roster.
Yes. I think is it in this league or is it in another league?
It's in Poor Man, and he still has them on the roster. While you tell the news, I'll go look it up.
If you have this, if you're the one that has still stock in Kadarius Tooney or Tony or however you say his idiotic name, you might want to sell them now because he's in jail. He got picked up, I think today or yesterday, for allegedly choking some female. This was back in January that the incident happened, but it got posted like 4 hours ago, and his mugshot just looks like a little punk.
He was arrested in Georgia on February 6th on 2 counts, one of aggravated assault
today,
and one of obstructing and harassing 911 calls. So, Bryce, you're holding out for this dream. Now, let's paint a picture here. Back in May 17th, 2021, I drafted Kadarius Toney with a 206. Later that year, on December 8th of 2021, I traded Kadarius Toney and a 2022 second-round pick to Bryce for DeAndre Hopkins. And Bryce has held on to Kadarius Toney ever since.
I inherited him in no fun, and I can't remember how long I kept him on the bench. Not long. Weeks, not months. And I just cut bait.
Yeah, just let him go, guys. Just let him go.
First rounder?
He was a first round pick by the New York Giants. That's where he started.
Mid first, if my memory serves. I
don't remember exactly where he went. I know he was a first rounder, but he was just disrespected with no love from the fantasy community. If I got him at the 206, that means a first round wide receiver fell. And I'm like, well, okay, I got the 206. He's a first round draft pick. Yeah, you know what? Let's take a shot. Let's see what happens. Obviously, he did not pan out. And the Giants probably regret heavily. But I think they traded him out. So they got at least something back for him.
Yep.
He went at pick 20. Ouch.
Okay. Well, now that we've talked about Kadarius Toney, let's talk about the AFC East. For those that don't know, that's your Buffalo Bills, your Miami Dolphins, your New York Jets, and your New England Patriots. So how we did this in the summer is we did it in 2 parts. We broke down what we thought that the season would look like. We looked at what Vegas was predicting, what Fox Sports, because they had posted what their predictions were, and then we looked at what they did last year and then kind of laid out how we thought the season would end this year. Would anybody like to read theirs first?
We were way off.
Oh, yeah, it was bad. Andrew, you were the closest, at least on one of them.
Yeah. So yeah, Buffalo went 13-4. Miami went 8-9. New York went 5-12, and New England went 4-13. I had Buffalo at 8-9. I thought Miami was going to be way better. 12-5. I had the Jets doing way better and 10-7, and New England at 3-14. So again, yeah, I was
everything except for New England was a whiff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had I had Buffalo regressing with the loss of what happened to their defense. Turned out not to be a bad thing. They were still pretty decent.
Yes.
Stephon Diggs leaving. I'm like, okay, well, I don't like what's left, but they made it work. They did finish 13-4. I had them going 9-8, so not so good. I had Miami winning it, going 12-5. They did not. The Jets 8-9. Obviously, I didn't think they were going to do better than they really did the year before. They went 5-12. But I thought Aaron Rodgers, Breece Hall coming back, year 2 of his injury recovery. I thought way more out of it. But nope, unfortunately, not the case. And then New England 5-12. I wasn't expecting a lot out of New England. New head coach, rookie quarterback, kind of did the same thing. Yeah. How about you, Josh?
I mean, I was slightly higher on Buffalo, but I only had them for 10 wins. I have Miami at 11. I won some money just on the Jets missing the playoffs. I was still too high here because they really missed the playoffs. And then, my hometown soft spot, I'm always losing money. I'm always thinking the Pats will do better than they did. I had them at 7-10, so it was not close on that.
Okay, quick sidebar. As a Patriots fan, are you happy with how things ended, the changes they've made, and what they got going on for next year? Or what are you thinking? What are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm happy to move on from Mayo. He got a bit of a raw deal, only 1 year, but he really did struggle, especially early in the years. Vrabel's exciting. Exciting's a strong word, but maybe give this team a personality. We got a good-looking QB and very little talent outside of that, so we got a long.
But they should be able to draft decently because they're going to get a good draft spot.
Yeah, I hope so. Even that, we kind of screwed up at the end. That final Week 18 win cost us, I don't know.
Joe Milton to the rescue.
Yeah. So
you had the one, and you won a game to get out of it.
It was a bitter pill. You
hear rumors that Joe Milton might be on the trade block because of his single performance and because you have Drake May, that teams might want to invest in Mr. Milton. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't dug into that. It doesn't shock me. I tend to think we'll just keep him because he looks decent, and I doubt we get too much for him yet. But yeah, he flashed.
Okay. Well, the next part of what we did is we selected our fantasy lineup out of this division. So quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and our flex play. So we collectively all chose Josh Allen as our quarterback, and that actually hit. Josh Allen was the best quarterback. He had 436 points, which is pretty good. We all selected Breece Hall as the running back. We all believed in what could have been. Unfortunately, he was not. Devon Achane was at 260. And to give you a bit of a perspective, 260 points was a top 12 finish, but it wasn't top 5.
Wow.
Yeah. Tyreek Hill, we all selected Tyreek Hill as our wide receiver. He did not finish anywhere in the running due to a variety of reasons. But Garrett Wilson at 199, even with the issues that he had with his quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, may he rest in peace, he still performed. And no one saw this coming. We selected Dalton Kincaid. Andrew was being cheeky and selected Ty Conklin. And Jonnu Smith rose up out of nowhere, even though he did kind of perform in Atlanta before he went to Miami, and finished with 176 points, which is impressive. That put him top 3 in tight ends. Yeah.
And which is weird because Miami historically hasn't been.
Yeah, they don't use the tight end, but
great point.
But without Tyreek and without Jalen Waddle, who were in and out of the game due to injuries or attitude, Jonnu Smith was just a great safety valve.
Yeah.
Now, the flex play, this is where the real challenge comes in because it could be a variety of players. I selected Devon Achane to go behind Breece Hall. So I get like a half point, kind of getting that he was going to finish.
Yep.
Jalen Waddle, again, did not finish anywhere necessary, so Andrew got nothing. And Ramondre Stevenson, I did have much higher hopes. Seeing how they paid him, how he performed the year before, I thought way
Yeah.
better things were in his future, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, in retrospect, that line, that was never going to happen.
But James Cook ended up he beat out all of the wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs to become the number 2 option in this format at 250 points, only 10 points behind Devon Achane.
Yeah, I think he was the biggest, for me, he was the biggest surprise in Buffalo. Like, he
Yes.
had
Yep.
such a productive year.
It was Josh Allen and James Cook, and nobody else was really startable. Khalil Shakir had games, but you didn't know when to play him.
Yeah.
And that was it. Keon Coleman didn't really get going. Dalton Kincaid was not reliable. And when he was, you thought you could play him. Dawson Knox somehow got the touchdowns. It was frustrating from a fantasy standpoint. So James Cook, good for him for being reliable, especially knowing Josh Allen vultures a lot of those touchdowns.
Yes.
With that aside, let us transition to the 2024 Man Year in Review Award Show. So this year, there are 6 awards. I'm going to pass it over to Josh, and I'm going to let him kick this thing off because this is his baby. And Andrew and I are just going to be happy participants. Josh, take it away.
Absolutely. And, I lose track. We've done this for a number of years. I want to say maybe last year was the first time we did the panel vote. That was a lot of fun. We had some good debates. So we're going to keep that going this year. And usually with 3 of us on, we have a tiebreaker. I've served as the tie, but Mike, I got to give you the honors. You're our league champ. You should be getting every benefit going.
Love it.
You're breaking ties today.
Yeah, I love getting privileges for being a winner.
Got it. All right, we'll start off with one of the most sought after awards, best pick of the rookie draft. Last year, Donnie took this maybe unanimously, but convincingly with Puka in the 5th round. Mm-hmm. So let's start at the top. The highest pick, Donnie at 109, took Brian Thomas. I was shocked at this guy's. Boy, he finished on a heater. Brian Thomas was wide receiver last year, so really impressive stuff from him out of the gate. Marvin at 203, his pick of Jaden Daniels, the QB5, obviously a tremendous season. Sean
couldn't go to a more terrifying manager too. Marvin selecting probably like the best quarterback for the next 10 years. Darn you.
Yeah, he really needed that. Brutal. Shervin at 402 took Bucky Irving, and I at my 406 pick took Tyrone Tracy. Bucky was the running back 13. Tracy was ranked a little lower, but once he got the job, I think half his games he had 20 plus touches. They really used him as a workhorse. So for me, fun list. I like a lot of these guys, but I'll flip it over to you two. How do you see this field?
I would take Bucky Irving as the kind of the steal, because going into the season, he wasn't slotted to be the starter, the main guy, and he stole it away. And I think he surprised a lot of guys or a lot of people. And I think he's got a bright future for him. I think so. Somebody stealing him as low as they did, and as high as he finished off, like if he had been the starter from day one, he might have been even higher. So my pick was Bucky Irving.
Well, it's not much of a tiebreaker here because I think the answer is clear. My selection clear above and beyond is Bucky Irving as well. With how he finished, how he earned the role, how he got his job as a walk-on. He wasn't drafted. So he was an undrafted player and just earned the spot. So at the 402, with what I think his future can hold, I think it's Bucky Irving. A close second to me would be Tyrone Tracy because of where he was drafted, how he was utilized, and how, again, he earned the job late in the season. I just don't know what the future can hold for him, if he can sustain that, or if the Giants and their poor decision-making do to him. And then Jaden Daniels and Brian Thomas, those guys were drafted to be good. You use draft capital to select a player here to do what they did. They just did better than expected. Not enough in my mind to leap what you got out of the pick like Bucky Irving. So that's my...
Yeah, and I'll make it a clean sweep. Interestingly, out of these 4 guys, he was the one I was definitely lowest on. I loved Brian Thomas. I cashed a bet on him for most rookie receiver touchdowns. Jane Daniels, I think everyone fell in love with him. Boy, that Washington team with him at the helm, like the fact that they never punted, I mean, it was just awesome football. So future is bright there. And yeah, I love Tyrone Tracy. He was a guy I couldn't leave a draft without. I own him everywhere. And Bucky, he was slow and small.
Yeah.
And, I guess what we should have seen was he really was landing in a good spot. Canales, Tampa, they use their running backs well, and Rashad White just had not been very efficient at all. And boy, he KO'd him right away, and that's his job.
It's worth it. All right. Well, congratulations. We'll do a quick little round of applause here. Way to go, Chervin. You did it. You selected a great player at a great value.
That's a big deal in the 4th round, too.
Yeah. If you can get anything out of the 4th round, like that is. And you, 4 picks later, getting Tyrone Tracy, I think that's still a sweet deal.
Yeah. So in No Fun, I ended up flipping him. I think he was kind of the key piece to getting Nico Collins. So these guys, like when you hit on them, boy, they have a lot of value. They just skyrocket. So it's worth taking a shot on these guys, right?
Yeah. I don't want, this one's not going to be fun. All right, kick us off.
Biggest rookie draft bust. So last year, this I remember was unanimous, and that was Quentin Johnston, kind of an easy call. So this year we got 4 nominees, all in the 1st round. So yeah, this is going to be a little painful. Let's start at the tippy top. Marvin Harrison, 101, wide receiver 29 on the year. Rome Odunze, Marvin, 103. That was wide receiver 49. Caleb Williams for Juan at 104. He finishes QB 16. And then the very sad story of Jonathan Brooks by Bryce at 108. He had 33 snaps and is probably missing next year.
Oh, no. He had 34 snaps. It was the 34th one that did him in.
Good point. Sad stuff.
Yeah, bad joke. Sorry.
I'll start off again on this one. You know what? For me, I think the hype was just so high on Caleb Williams that he was going to turn that team around, and he was going to be the all-star, and he was going to be the top guy and the top rookie, and then how he fell so flat. To me, it's Caleb Williams. I get Jonathan Brooks is a very quick second to me, but I just think there's so much hype around Caleb Williams going into the draft that I'm just baffled on how poorly he did.
Josh, because we're probably going to need a tiebreaker on this.
Yeah, so I did find this one really tough. All right, so it's not Harrison. I'm not super worried. He actually did have a lot of touchdowns last year, so he does have some improving to do. But the fact that he finished wide receiver 29 with a pretty healthy TD total. But, the talent's there. So for me, it's the other 3. And I always look at, well, what could have been? So Odunze at 103 was pretty chalky, but you have Brock Bowers as the next pick. So that really hurts. For Caleb, again, you could have gone Bowers if you wanted to, have a great onesie pick. But Daniels in the 2nd, May and Nixon the 3rd. So that felt overdrafted to me. And then Jonathan Brooks could have been Brian Thomas. So, all 3 of those really hurt. I'm gonna prevent the tiebreaker here. I'm gonna line up with Andrew on this one.
Oh,
because I thought Caleb was overdrafted at the time. Not to pile on Juan, but in a 1 QB league at 104, I didn't like it then. He had Jalen Hurts, and Chicago's just dysfunctional. So that would be my vote.
Okay. Well, we have a winner, but let's hear my selection.
I'd like to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, hang on. We'll do the drum roll. Jonathan Brooks. Here's my reasoning. Marvin Harrison did not live up to the hype, but if he didn't get drafted where he was and didn't have the hype, he still had a really good rookie year for a wide receiver. Rome Odunze was a Chicago Bear in a crappy system with a quarterback that didn't live up to the hype. I'm not blaming Rome Odunze. Year 2, if Rome Odunze can't get it done, then I'm going to be really concerned and probably not want to have shares of him by year 3. I also feel kind of the same way about Caleb Williams. Came in a bunch of hype. Now, Josh, I had not considered the argument that he was taken at the 104 in a league where it's a onesie position. It's not super flex. I never, and I will never draft a quarterback in the first round unless it's super flex. So this selection to me was just like, wow, that blew my mind. It was very shocking. And I can see from that perspective, that being the biggest bust because you invested in a number 4 pick in a rookie draft on a onesie position when you already had really good talent in other players. So yeah, that really hurts. However, why he's not my choice is because he's not done. He was a first overall pick. He's not going anywhere. They just brought in Ben Johnson. May he get absolutely crapped on by Dan Campbell when they face twice a year. But he's going into a situation where maybe he's gonna get a coach that can actually like turn something out of it, the situation that they're in. So again, one more year for Caleb Williams. If he can't get it done and he doesn't improve, then he's probably toast. Jonathan Brooks, on the other hand, this is rough. He was drafted to be the running back, coming off of an injury. They invested into the hype of what could have been, waited for him to get to the field. Before he got to the field, under Dave Canales and what was left of Bryce Young and his Phoenix rebirth, Chuba Hubbard rises to the surface along with him. Chuba Hubbard earns a contract extension, probably something he wasn't going to get had he not had this level of performance or an opportunity to play. Jonathan Brooks comes back, tries to step in, and blows his knee out again. I don't know about you, but I'm probably not going to hold on to any Jonathan Brooks shares, waiting for him another year for him to come back and try and earn a spot on a roster. So my 108 pick, that just went up in smoke. Yeah. So unless you can trade him now and try and get something, like that's why I selected him as the biggest draft bust, is because you just busted that draft pick.
Yeah, and that was a lot of what you said was the reason why I said he was a close second for me. You know, the Chuba Hubbard stepping up and having a resurgence and stealing the job away from him. You know, that maybe it was a situation where he didn't get a fair shake, right? Didn't get enough touches, what have you. And then the other comment, like I was the other comment that I was gonna make about Marvin Harrison, like Josh said, he had good touchdown numbers. I just think he was in a offensive format that, you put him on more of a team that stretches the field more. I bet you he has way more yards and he does a whole lot better. Like if you put him in Buffalo, where Josh Allen could throw him a 40-yard pass once or twice a game, because he's got the speed, he's got the hands. He proved it in Ohio. I think he could still be a really, really valuable pick to have if he gets the right system behind him. I don't think Arizona's the right system for him.
Maybe
they're going to be a run first team and a shaky pass second.
I'm not going to bet against Marvin. I think it's more likely than not he turns out to be a good pro.
Yes, and maybe he just needs a year or two to adapt to the NFL too, right? He's got darn good pedigree.
All right, next up.
All right, let's move off the rookie draft, going over to waiver gem of the year. So we got another supersized category with 4 entries here. So let's start off with Juwan Jennings by Shervin. He spent $9. Obviously, he had that really big game early in the year, but he ended up being wide receiver 25.
That's how he finished the year, was 25?
25. But, I took a quick look at the numbers, playable. Flex worthy pretty much all year. A lot of 8-9 point games. Entry number 2, we got another San Francisco guy, another guy that benefited from injury, Jordan Mason. That was a pickup by me for $2, and he really carried my team early in the year. Wouldn't trade him to you, Mike.
Nope, you wouldn't.
So
You wouldn't let
I
me have
would
that
not.
handcuff.
No. And you know, it helped me climb the standings and stay relevant. So I feel good about that. Sam Darnold by Bryce. Bryce spent $21 on him. Darnold was QB9. And then a guy we talked about in the previous segment, Jonnu Smith by Marvin, a $0 bid. Maybe I'll start us off for once. How I see this field, you got the San Francisco guys. Both were good, but really injury replacements, not a lot of long-term value. I've always kind of liked Jennings. Mason's a good backup. He'll probably see the field again, but you know, a limited upside for these guys. Darnold, I wonder if he would have been in the running if we could throw out those last 2 games of the season. I feel so bad for the guy. Like, I don't know how much money he lost, but you know, it was such a great story, and now I don't quite know what's going to happen there. So for me, my vote's going to be Jonnu, the oldest guy in the field here. But Jonnu was just a terror. The final 8 games, I had to write this down. He was tight end 2, tight end 3, 3, 5, 1, 10, 13, and 5. This was on Marvin's team that took the regular season title and went all the way to the final game. So for me, that production really matters. Jonnu was the best pickup of the year for me.
Fair enough. I fully agree with Jennings and Mason's. Your comments about them is, they were good cheap pickups for filling in for an injury, but you know, had those other players come back 3 or 4 weeks earlier in the season, would their they would have went back to the bench probably. I look at the season as a whole. For me, it's Sam Darnold having such a good, solid year. From what he came from in the past, where at training camp he was not the starter going into training camp. So he took the opportunity that was given to him. It was obviously the right offense for him, and he had a great year. Like you said, other than the last couple of games, he had a great year. That team was in contention of winning the division, almost winning the conference.
Mm-hmm.
They shocked the hell, I think, out of everybody in the league. That team just played consistent. So for me, it's him. Jonnu Smith was, again, a very, very good, a very success story for a guy kind of coming out of from nowhere and having a really great year. But is Jonnu Smith going to be able to have that same year next year? So for me, the steal of the year was Sam Darnold. Interested though, when these guys picked these guys up, did they have them in the lineup week in or week out, or did Marvin pick up Jonnu Smith off of one game and then he played 1 or 2 games and then he sat on the bench the rest of the year because he had, say, Kittle or somebody else that was as talented
He had good tight ends, but it looked to me like he did use him.
Okay.
Not
And same thing with Sam Darnold. Like, I don't know if Bryce starting Darnold every week, or was he the backup to his regular starter?
I'll say I grabbed Darnold early in No Fun, where I had a real QB problem, and I played him every week.
Yeah,
he was great.
So I mean, it would be interesting. Like I said, it was interesting. Like, say I had picked up Darnold for the $21, but I would have had him behind Mahomes. I would have been starting Mahomes over Darnold almost every week. Just on the opportunity, the ceiling was higher.
On that other team, I had Mahomes, and I was playing Darnold. That's how good Darnold was.
Yes, yeah, but you think between the two guys, the ceiling would be higher with Mahomes than Darnold some weeks, right? So interesting. So I guess Mike, you'd be the tiebreaker this time.
I will be the tiebreaker, and this is actually really tough because all of these guys had value. Now I'm going to tell you guys a little story about Jonnu Smith. Marvin did not use Jonnu Smith. He rode his bench.
There you go.
He used Mark Andrews instead.
That's one of the swinger things for me. It was like, and that's why I asked the question after the fact. Was
Yeah.
he could be a great steal from everybody, but if you don't use him, it's no good. Because obviously, John Smith had a way better year than Mark Andrews.
No, he did not.
Oh, Mark Andrews had a better year than Smith?
Started off slow, but was more consistent throughout the year. I'm just looking at the details right now. So the only time he played Jonnu Smith was in the final game against me.
Okay.
So looking back at what was in, and he played Cole Kmet, he played Mark Andrews mostly, he played Dalton Kincaid once, and that was always that was because of a bye. Yeah, but did not deploy Jonnu Smith.
And I guess another question that I kind of have with some of like with this category, like when you're going out and you're grabbing a guy off the waiver, like are you grabbing him week 1 or 2, or are you grabbing him week 17 or 18, and you're just using him as the last little to get you through that last game or two, right? To me, I think that makes a big deal with regards to was the guy a good gem? Like if Bryce picked up Darnold week 2 and rolled him throughout the rest of the year versus Marvin taking John Smith and Marvin sitting him on the bench, well, which guy was more valuable to the team that he was on?
That's tough because, like, looking at how these players performed, Juwan Jennings, you could have played him all year as a flex play, and he averaged you, like, in the weeks that he didn't blow up, he was getting you just almost 9 points. So he was just shy of 9 points without the big games. But if he got you those big games, man, that was awesome. Jordan Mason was fantastic for you in the beginning part of the year until his injury, at which point he never recovered and wasn't playable again. But you didn't have him for the full year. You had him for like Juwan Jennings, you had him. He missed 2 games due, I'm assuming, to an injury. He missed 2 games, week 7 and week 8. But otherwise, he was reliable for you all year long. Yeah. Jordan Mason was good week 1, 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, and
by then he petered out. Yeah,
and then he petered right out.
Yeah.
Like, okay, then so you got 5-6 weeks of starting him, and then you started to like, okay, well, it's not so good. So to me, Jordan Mason, not on the list. I'll remove Jordan Mason. Jonnu Smith never gave you an indication that he was going to do what he did. Yeah. He had low snap percentages. He had low targets. He was touchdown dependent. He had one big game, which was week 7, which he went 7 for 7, 93 yards and a touchdown. That was his first touchdown of the year. So people took notice. But then the next 3 weeks were 4 points, 7 points, 6 points. It wasn't until week 11, by which time I don't think anybody would have started him in time. And I think when Marvin played him, it was like the fantasy playoffs. He just didn't deliver. So it was kind of late. So for that, I'm going to eliminate Jonnu. So to me, it's between Juwan Jennings and Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold had 1 game, 2 games during the fantasy season where he wasn't playable. He had 9 points in week 10, 4 points in week 5, but 19, 22, 30, 26, 19, 22, 26, 26, 25, 23, 44 in week 14, 14 in week 15. That would have hurt you in the playoffs. But 27 in week 15 or week 16, like as much as I think Juwan Jennings was helpful, winning you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks throughout the year, I think Sam Darnold really takes the cake here. Looking at what he would have meant, like from the lens of if he was on my team and I was playing him, what would I have got out of him? I wouldn't have gotten what I needed out of Jordan Mason. He would have helped me get started, but I would have stumbled partway through the season until I realized like he was done. Jonnu Smith, I might have done the same thing that Marvin did. I would have picked him up and had him, but not know if I could trust him or be brave enough to ride him if I had somebody like Mark Andrews, who was performing at the time. because his cold start was over. And then Juwan Jennings, like if I had, well, in my case, I would love to have had Juwan Jennings and not had to ride the roller coaster of flex plays that I had to do. I would have taken the shot there. So yeah, I'm gonna go Sam Darnold on this. Congratulations, Bryce. That was a great grab. I never would have picked him up. I would not have believed. I had written this kid off for everything. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised he didn't win comeback player of the year as a guy who essentially lost his job, was relegated to being a bridge or a backup quarterback, stepped into a role that was given to him based upon injury, and he accepted the challenge. Joe Burrow, to me, did not deserve the comeback player of the year.
And you could see it in his
One
face
thing
when
I've
he
learned
accepted
over the years, you cannot underestimate how much the Jets mess players up. So I've been rooting for Darnold. I always thought he had something. He flashed in San Francisco, and credit to the Vikings. They really did something with him.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens next year with that quarterback
All right.
room.
All right, we got a winner. Let's see what's next.
Category number 4. Worst drop of the year. So I always find these two a little tough to separate. You have some overlap between the best ad and the best drop. So purposely, I kept Jonnu off this list for the worst drop because you kind of touched on this, Mike. Boy, we just never saw this coming. It really came out of nowhere. So it's hard to blame a manager for a drop like that. So we got 3 candidates for this one. We'll start off with me. I dropped Cedric Tillman. Tillman had 3 absolute monster games, a 3-game stretch in the middle part of the year. He's only 24, so youngest guy on this list. Another drop by me, Russ Wilson. Russ, once he got the job in week 7, he was in the conversation. He was streamable. I think he had 4 20-point games, 20-plus points. So again, just a helpful depth piece on a team. And then Andrew will be our third option. His pickup of Kareem, or his drop of Kareem Hunt. Hunt was super relevant for the bulk of the year on that Kansas City team.
Yeah, he was. Ooh, look at that. Okay, so the history here. Kareem Hunt was dropped by Andrew on August 15th, 2024. He was then picked up by Slick for $56 on September 17th. So I'm assuming that was after it was announced that he was signing with so that would have been after it was announced he was signing with the Chiefs. So he did 9.5 points, 18, 21, 12, 18, 13, 6, 10. Okay, yeah, that's going to be a tough one. Cedric Tillman, you dropped him. Josh, you dropped him in May, so you were just clearing your roster, getting ready for the draft on a kid who didn't really do anything in his first year. Money spent $37 once this kid exploded. Picked him up, added it to the roster just before week 7, or maybe week 8. I forget to see that out. And yeah, the kid had 3 great games, had a bye week, came back, and then got injured, and then missed the rest of the year.
Yep.
So there's fingers crossed, there's hope for the future here. And then Russell Wilson, Josh, you dropped him on September 10th, 2024. And for some reason, I'm addicted to tight ends and quarterbacks, so I picked him up shortly thereafter and just held on to him. I'm not sure I played him ever, but I just held on to him. Yeah, this one, I got to go Kareem Hunt. Looking at what he did, and he only finished as running back 30. Wow. Yeah. Running back 30, and he still had some crazy big weeks.
I was surprised at that, too. Those numbers didn't look right to me. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Are we all in agreement? Andrew, what is your selection? Do you want to pick your own guy, or do you want to pick somebody else?
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%.
Might have lost Andrew along the way here, so I'm going to jump in. Hard to argue with Hunt. Where I'm gonna go here is Tillman. Again, this is the youngest guy on the list, so probably has the most hope.
You lost, Andrew? You can't see him or hear him?
Is he there?
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
Am I talking over him?
Yeah, he was talking, and then you jumped right on top.
I don't have him in my audio. Isn't that weird?
Mike, I don't have him on my screen.
You don't see him either? Oh, my goodness. This is a great technical. Let's see what's going on here. Andrew?
Yes?
it looks like you are out of the system.
Okay, I'll jump back out.
Whoa! Hang on. Let me see. Like, what's going on? Josh is in as guest. I can see full stream. His metrics are reporting. I'm looking at yours. Yours says frozen.
Okay, well, I'll jump out and jump back.
Yeah, man. Okay. All right. Just so we're clear, if nobody heard, Andrew did select Kareem Hunt. He did select Kareem Hunt. That was a real world. It hurt because that was his player that he dropped, and seeing what he did, like that's, and I get
that was kind of my answer too, Tillman.
Yeah, seeing what they do. Okay. Oh, here he comes. He's coming back in. He's in here twice. How did you jump in twice, Andrew?
I don't know. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you now.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Okay, cool. That was a neat experiment. You came in twice.
Because I get 2 votes on everything now.
There you go. Hey, if there's 2 pictures of you, you and your doppelganger can cast 2 votes. Repeat. What was your
My vote was for Hunt.
You're going Hunt.
Okay.
And the reason that I had dropped him in August was because he wasn't on the team. Cleveland had walked away from him, and I wasn't gonna have, because I had kept him a couple times, waiting for him to get going again with Cleveland. And I just I can't keep holding on to this guy. I thought he was done. And gosh, I am disappointed that I hadn't, because I had Pacheco. If I had kept Hunt, and then I could have kept when Pacheco went down, thrown Hunt back in, I might have gotten more than one victory in the year. So that was, my bad. But hey, you gotta live with your choices.
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't know where he was going, right? So one thing I know you've said before, Mike, is these running backs, just don't drop them if you can avoid it.
Yeah, you never know, but I understand where you're coming from, Andrew. You had many shares of homeless Kareem Hunt, not knowing what the future was going to be. He was older. He was let go from a team, which is never a good sign in him trying to get another job, but he did. He landed back with the Chiefs, and he showed. You guys are ridiculous not for using me more. So,
okay.
All right, Kareem Hunt was worst drop of the year. Now let's get to
this.
Let's get to number 5.
This is always tough. All right, so trade disaster of the year. This gets complicated. What I recommend, guys, let's break it down each trade. We'll all do kind of rapid fire, because otherwise we just get lost in the details. So let's start off. I thought I won an early season trade getting Chase Brown and a 5th from you, Mike, for a 3rd, which you used on Luke McCaffrey, and a 4th on Penix. Obviously premature to totally call this deal. You got a couple young guys there, but I called my shot, and I think I'm the early leader in the clubhouse, getting a 24-year-old Chase Brown, who was a top 12 running back. He looked great, looked explosive, great receiver. So I lean my side on that one. Any thoughts, guys?
Yeah. I like the value. Not knowing that Chase Brown was going to get the job, I really thought he was going to be the backup, but he took it over. So I got to take this one on the chin. Luke McCaffrey, sure, and Michael Penix, that's down the road. Like, those are still lottery
100%.
tickets to see if they cash. I think Chase Brown's still the guy next year. So you sent a 3rd and a 4th for a starting running back. You gambled, you won.
I gambled.
You got the win in this one. He also looked really good when they finally stopped messing around and time sharing it and just let him go. The kid looked good.
He looked great. He's fast. I'll say Penix looked good in his final game. Yeah. So you're right. There's time on this one.
But not a comparison. I'd rather have a starting running back over a starting quarterback. It's a onesie position.
Definitely.
I'd rather have Chase Brown than Michael Penix. Yeah, so even in that point, even if Michael Penix becomes a starting quarterback, I don't see him in the caliber of being a top 10, but maybe the middle of the road, right? Like that's my hope for him at this point is, hey, maybe you can be a 12 to 15 type of quarterback as opposed to a top 10. Fingers crossed. So, I'll give you the nod here. You won that one.
Trade number 2 is a big one. So Juan, I thought, took this one. He got Rashad White. He got Jerry Jeudy. He got Khalil Shakir, all from Donnie. Donnie took Juan's 2026 first. I assume that's a high to mid first, probably. And he got,
Let me confirm that.
well, 2026, so we don't know.
Oh, it's okay.
So
right,
we don't
can't
know.
see that one.
And Caleb Williams. So, like I said, I'm going White, Jude, especially Judy and Shakir. You know, these guys are 25, 26.
Yeah.
Judy went absolutely nuclear last year. He ended up as wide receiver 15, I want to say. So I definitely go Juan's side on this one.
Fully agree.
It looks that way. I liked what Jerry Jeudy did. I think he's going to be good regardless of who the QB is. Khalil Shakir, he's going to be hit or miss. Like, to me, I as much as he was great when he performed, you just didn't know where this performance was going to come. And Rachaad White was still a workhorse. He just lost the efficiency side of things to Bucky Irving. So, like, he's still going to be a solid handcuff. In comparison, a 2026 first, that's a ways out. So you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So this might actually be a bit of a wash. I'm not as upset by what was spent here, because when the deal happened, and I think that's something we might have missed in the first one, when we made that deal, that was in the off season. That was before we knew things that were going on, right? So that was time to gamble. When this deal happened, this was a trade deadline deal. This was Juan making a push. So he was spending to get assets to try and go forward. Donnie was purging to try and rebuild and capture some value. So to me, this is a lot closer in value than the one that you and I had previously.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, if the 2026 turns out to be a first or second pick, that could swing the deal all completely.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, Andrew, this is you and Gabriel. I thought he got the better side, so he got Mixon, and you got a 2025 208 pick and Michael Wilson. So Mixon was surprisingly very good, RB13, but looked really good, really dominant. Michael Wilson, really had another opportunity, and how many is he going to get? He flopped again. So I think it's asking a lot of you to get Mixon like value from the 208.
Well, this was early in the year, was it not?
It was.
Yeah, where I wasn't really sure what Mixon's season was going to look like with a new team. So I thought if he ended up like running back 25 or 26 in the league because he gets with a new team and doesn't gel and doesn't do anything, the 208 pick might look really good.
You didn't know it was a 208 at the time either.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Because Gabe was like dead last the year before. So it could have been the 201 pick.
Great point.
Right? So from that perspective, yes, at the end of the season, yes, I lost this one big time. But at the time, it made more sense to me than if we had done this at the trade deadline. There's no way in heck I would have given up Mixon
for that price.
For that price, at the season he had, there's no way.
No, you would have asked for more. You probably would have deserved more. But you were trying to get ahead of the curve. You were anticipating a fall off in performance and production, and you wanted to get ahead of it while there was still value to be had.
Exactly.
Plus, you guys might not know this, but Gabriel has a big hard on for Joe Mixon. He's a big fan. So like that's a legitimate. Yeah. So he likes Joe Mixon. All right.
Last deal. It's you two guys. So Mike, I thought you got the better end getting Mike Evans. Andrew, you took Hollywood, Vele from Denver, and what turned out to be the 310 in this year's draft.
Okay, so I'll touch on this one again. I've had Mike Evans for a while. I think I got him from Mike at some point in time.
Really?
Yeah,
he's been moved a lot in this league.
Yeah. My thing with Mike Evans was injury prone. He's getting up there in age. I don't want to be holding on to him for too much longer. I thought Kansas City needs a wide receiver somewhere to do something. Hollywood Brown, step up and do something. He should have had a better year. And then the future draft pick. Vele was kind of hey, you know what? Hopefully he can get good. Hopefully he can get some chemistry. But that really didn't pay out. That was more of just a throw in on the deal for me. I don't know, Mike, what's your thoughts on
I took advantage of the fact that you didn't want aging assets on your team. You were starting to see the writing on the wall. So I threw you some young assets and said, hey, look, like, I know this is what you're looking for, like in youth. Let's try and find a way to make this work that makes you happy. Because I wanted to make the push to make the playoffs. Thankfully, like, knock on wood, it worked out. I made it to the championship and I won, which is always the goal and the intent. But at this point, I was fighting just to make a playoff spot, not knowing if I was going to be again on the outside looking in. And I was pestering several guys. Apologize for that, by the way, everybody. But I pestered a lot of people to, hey, look, can we do something here? Can we do something here? And I had my eyes set, like, this might be the last year, Mike Evans. He might come back next year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he does, so I can squeeze some more life out of it. But yeah, that was my thought. You wanted out, and I needed something.
Yeah, and my hope was that, hey, if I can get a Bucky Irving at 310, then it's a lot closer of a deal. So,
And
you don't know on a deal like this until I draft my guy and see what he turns out to be. He could turn out to be a bust, or he could turn out to be a number one wide receiver or a number one running back.
And again, this looks bad because Hollywood couldn't have busted harder. I mean, he had a lot of buzz. Mike, you had him before. I was trying hard to get him a little over a year ago in Arizona. Like, I really believed in him, and I don't know where he goes from here. I mean, what a disaster. He could not stay on the field.
If he had stayed healthy, he might have had a chance.
Sure.
This is going to fall into the scenario where you hurt yourself by being hurt because you couldn't show people what you could do. You didn't build that chemistry. He's not staying with the Chiefs. They've got Rashee Rice coming back. Xavier Worthy's doing something. DeAndre Hopkins is probably just going to be a 5-cent player for them next year. Like, it's going to be tough for him to find a home that's going to pay him unless he's willing to, like, go to a team and say, hey, look, I'm not worth much, but, give me a shot and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So I came into this ready to vote on the Juan Donnie deal. You guys are starting to turn me around. Anyone got a strong case for one of the other trades?
You know what? Chase Brown. I think based upon if you had to pay for Chase Brown at the trade deadline, what would you have had to pay to get him? And you took your shot. You didn't have any other run.
Brian Robinson.
Yeah, you didn't. It's not like he was a handcuff for you. You saw the offseason, what people were saying during the summer. To me, that was the best value. The Rachaad White, Jerry Jeudy, I don't think that's really like the trade disaster. To me, that seems pretty fair. The Joe Mixon scenario here, that was Andrew trying to get out before the proverbial wall hit for Joe Mixon, which might be next year.
Mike Evans had like a 25-point game for you in the championship round. That was almost the margin of victory. So that counts for something for me too.
Yeah, that's like, he was extremely valuable for me going down the stretch because when did we make that trade? I'm looking at it. We made that trade October 15th. That would have been
like week 6 or 7.
Yeah, so then he had his injury shortly thereafter. Yeah. So I think I traded him on a down week. So he had week 6, he was 4 points. Week 7, he was 9 points. Then he missed 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks with the bye. Came back, was 9 points. And then week 13, 21. Week 14, 8. Week 15, 32. Week 16, 9. Week 17, championship week, 25.7.
And that's really, to be honest with you, that was one of my biggest issues with Mike Evans, was his inconsistency. I'm going to take out Juan Donnie. That's not a consideration. Gabe, myself, again, not a consideration because at the time, who knew what Nixon was going to do. So I go to the Josh, Mike, or Mike Andrew because of how low Hollywood Brown fell and Vele really just didn't do anything. All of my eggs are in that 310 pick. So I would vote that the bust is Mike Andrew, just because who knows what's going to happen with the 310. I could come out again looking sweet, or I got nothing for Mike Evans virtually.
Yeah, you make a good argument.
I think that's where I'm coming down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say, as we talk about it, it's kind of interesting because we almost need to define this better. Like, was the manager at fault? Like, was it just a terrible decision on their part? Part of this is the fantasy gods. We don't know. Like, sometimes this is just trades breaking wrong. So I'm gonna go for the Evans deal because Hollywood broke wrong, and not necessarily your fault, but boy, you would undo it if you could.
But how awesome would I have looked if he turned around and had Tyreek Hill Kansas City numbers, 20, 30 points a game for the rest of that season?
Get 3 years younger at that wide receiver position.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Like
Mm-hmm.
it would have looked like a genius. Like I would have stolen a thing away from Mike is the way it would have looked. It would have almost been a flip on the who won, who lost.
Okay.
So
I agree. That is the one, but I want to throw in some additionals here. Hollywood will be re-signing with the Chiefs. They're in negotiations for re-upping his deal.
Are they? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, they're probably trying to steal him. They're probably trying to take it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And guess how many games he played last year?
7.
5. Wow.
He did not make his first appearance on the field until week 16, where he played 27% of the snaps. In that game, he did have 8 targets caught 5 of them for 45 yards. In the follow-up week against Pittsburgh, week 17, he played 40% of the snaps, received 7 targets, 4 receptions, 46 yards. So his metrics are really good. When he was on the field, he was hyper-targeted.
Yeah.
He just wasn't on the field. He wasn't healthy for a good chunk of the year, and then when he was, he just didn't get a lot of snap.
Well, maybe I'll hold on to him then.
I kind of think we should come back to these over time because here's the thing with dynasty trades, they flip and then they flip back. Really, it's the twists and turns, it'll drive you crazy.
Yeah.
From one year to the next, things can change so much. Yeah. Man, Hollywood has really been passed around.
He's moved a lot.
My goodness. Like looking at his history here, it's like he was drafted. Yeah, he was almost. He was drafted in 2019 at pick 107. He was traded a year later to, looks like Juan took over the team, or Marvin. Yeah, so Juan took over the team in 2020, traded him to Marvin in exchange for Davis. Is that Miles Davis? Malik? What, Davis? And then a
Carolina running back.
Maybe. So A.M. Davis, I don't know who that is, at a 2021 second. Then, not even a month later, Marvin traded him to Chervin in exchange for Christian Kirk or for Stephon Diggs. He got Stephon Diggs in exchange for Christian Kirk and Hollywood Brown. Then, a year later, almost to the day, I got Hollywood Brown and Chase Edmonds in exchange for Trey Sermon. Oh, that was a terrible pick. And a 2022 first round pick. Okay. So I can see why Marvin's doing well. He is cashing in. He is rolling up value here. And then I exchanged 3 years later to Andrew, Hollywood, Deuce Vele, and a third in exchange for Mike Evans. Wow.
And on every one of those deals, I think everybody was wanting Hollywood Brown for the potential.
Yeah.
And it just never panned out anywhere.
No, his best year was 2021, which is when yours truly paid. I paid at the peak. It's fantastic.
It almost makes you want to invest in these guys that the community loves just to flip them.
Yeah, if
they
you're
got
good
value.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Great discussion, guys. I got one more. Comeback team of the year. So another big one. Obviously, last year this was Donnie moving from last to first in the title.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let's put 4 teams forward. I moved up from 9th to 2nd. I'll say, I kind of had some luck this year. I had one of the lower points against totals, and I kind of, made it work with the Jordan Masons and Rico Dowdles of the world.
You mean you managed your team well?
Yeah.
Surprise. Hey, look at that.
Not a ton of talent, but hung in there.
You did, man.
All right, I got to go you next, Mike. So last year you were out in the first round. This year, obviously, you had a title. You were the team I was really scared of going into the playoffs more than Marvin. And honestly, you guys barely switched spots that final week. It was like two super tight matchups, so I was really bummed to draw you in the first round. We got Marvin. He moved. He had a down year last year, obviously, so he moved from 6th back up to 1st for the regular season. Like you said, really scary that he added Daniels to this team, so we're not done with Marvin's reign of terror yet. And then let's go Lab. Gabriel moved from 2-13 to the playoffs. Really impressive. He got that 4 seed this year. Made a ton of deals. He had the Mixon deal. He traded for Lamar, drafted Bowers, JSN bounced back. So some impressive stuff going on his team too. What do you guys think?
For me, it's an easy one. And it's because this guy's team just got tougher and tougher throughout the year, and that's Mike. Like if you look at the first couple of weeks, Mike was like, "Oh, my team is scaring me," and then it just his team just got better and stronger and better and stronger. Until, like you said, Josh, the two Titans were going at it for the final, and no one wanted to play either one of them, except me. I wanted to go against Mike because I think I beat Mike week 1. That was my only
did.
win.
You did, yeah.
But then he turned around and kicked the snot out of me. That's the second time we played, and it's just his team. Just like I said, what pushes Mike over Gabe for me, because Gabe had a huge turnaround. His team got better and better as well, but Mike's just got so powerful throughout the rest of the year.
Lost McCaffrey.
Yep. That was scary as all heck, let me tell you.
There was another injury too. Like you had a couple of them.
I did. I can't go back through the trauma at the moment, but if you give me a second, I will go back to the
twitching with PSTD.
Yeah, it was. There was some serious fear. Not leave league. No,
And some of his guys had off seasons, like Laporta didn't produce.
Well, yeah, I lost Diggs. Prescott went down, who was my starter. I had to wait for Hawkinson, which I didn't really utilize. And then my wide receiver rooms, I wrote essentially David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yes,
it's true.
To the future. Yeah, they were everything to me. I waited for Michael Pittman to have Joe Flacco as a quarterback and played him those weeks versus Anthony Richardson. Cortland Sutton was a saving grace because I wasn't expecting anything out of Cortland Sutton, and he finished as the wide receiver 13. So thank you, Bo Nix. Big shout out to Bo Nix. And then Adam Thielen.
That's
Thielen
where I was
going.
Mm-hmm.
It's like...
Yeah, talk about managing your team well. Thielen showing up in the final games.
The guy's going to be in a wheelchair still catching the damn ball.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. Like, I don't think the jump from missing just on the cusp of the playoffs to making the playoffs and winning it, like, I think that's a good achievement. I'm proud of myself for doing that. Like, the team came together. But to me, it's Josh and Gabriel. Like, that's where it comes from. You took your team from a point where, hey, you were on the downward slope. You kind of hit the bottom. You restructured. You made moves. You made trades. You made draft picks. Draft picks hit. And you climbed out of the bottom, and you're right back into the playoffs. You're right back in the point of contention. Marvin moving 6th to 1st, that doesn't move the needle for me. Me making into the playoffs, I felt like I was a playoff team, was worried in the beginning of the year, but I didn't feel like making that big jump would put me as comeback player of the year. It's the moves and the aggression and the risks that players make or managers make. So like yourself, Josh, like Gabriel, and we saw trades up here. You guys were in them. You made moves to go get Chase Brown. Gabriel made moves to go get Joe Mixon. You made smart decisions that paid off, or you made smart gambles that paid off, and then you utilized what you had to improve your state. Donnie last year won it because he went literally from like a 1 and terrible season
2-13
to 2-13 to a title where he was opportunistic with what was presented to him. and I think that should be highlighted. So what you, Josh, and Gabriel did with your teams, going from where you were to where you ended up, that should be recognized.
Yeah, I mean, comeback team of the year. I think you're looking at it right, and I'm my vote's definitely Gabriel. Again, the deals, Lamar, Mixon, he had Chase, JSN was amazing, so that's my vote.
I just hope JSN can stay amazing for that team with the changes that they're about to go through. We'll wait and see. So yeah, well, let's give it out to Gabriel. Gabriel, I'm going to give you a little round of applause here. I'm going to go back to my little media board, click this button, and go clappity clap clap clap.
No,
Why is it not clapping?
it didn't work this time. There
we go. Well done, Gabriel.
you were hitting a golf clap, weren't you?
More than likely. Just that nice silent round of applause. Okay. Last one we're going to give out here is Poor Man of the Year. This is super easy. This is where it goes out to the guy who has earned the most last place finishes and ultimately the title of Poor Man of the Year. We're going to count from the least amount of entries all the way up to the top. So with no entries, with no appearances, with a Poor Man of the Week, we got Marvin, Slick, and Donnie. Congratulations, guys. That is well done. Coming in with one appearance apiece, we've got Gabriel, Bryce, Mike, and Chervin. Coming in with 2 appearances each, we got Josh and Juan. That leaves one manager left. Drum roll, please. Andrew, you are the Poor Man of the Year. And for that, my friend, we give you a roaring, raucous cheer.
I'm surprised you didn't do a raucous sploosh gurgle gurgle.
Well, I could do that if you wanted, but no, this felt right. That was good. Do you have anything that you attribute to? Do you feel that you were hit with bad luck? Did you choose players that you probably shouldn't have? Like
anyone you want to thank for this award, Andrew?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to thank Mahomes, Kelsey,
Pacheco.
Yeah. Yep.
Tyreek Hill. The guys just, my team just fell off a cliff. When you look at the team and you look at the stats the year before, like I got knocked out by Donnie in the semifinals. I was right there in contention to win it all the year before, and just everybody's numbers were cut almost in half for me. So that and some poor injuries and stuff like that, and eventually picking up Brown and him not doing anything for me type thing. So that was next year will be different.
Well, next year you're probably going to get your hands on some sweet talent. I don't know who's going to be the projected first overall. I would think at this point it's either going to be that Travis Hunter kid, depending on where he lands, and if they keep him as a wide receiver versus the defensive back, or that Ashton Genty, that running back who seems to be a big name. Yeah. So
to make you feel better, you got the 101, 103, 201, 208, 301, 303, 308, 309, 310, 501.
Yeah,
that's the guy who's rebuilding right there. You might need to either trade some of those picks away,
I think so,
or dump some of your guys on your roster to make room
yes.
for them.
It'll probably be some of both. But I've put myself in a position where I should be getting 2 or 3 really good young guys that like a good number one, not number one, but a good starting wide receiver, a good starting running back. Potentially the number 1 or 2 rookie tight end. Like I should be able to get to fill the holes of my aging team. Like Tyreek Hill gone, Travis Kelsey potentially gone.
Evans gone, Mixon gone, right? Like, you had aging assets, and now you're going to try and go for the young squad.
And there's a reason blowing it up works. You got to make some room so you can take a lot of bites at the apple. You're going to get a lot of chances here.
We just saw it work 2 years in a row. We just saw Donnie do it 2 years ago. We just saw Gabriel do it last year.
And again, for guys that are listening, if you're wanting a pick, come around draft time.
You know,
And you
people are going to be coming.
And you're wanting to give me a young guy that has had a year or two worth of talent because you're trying to grab the next superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can make a deal.
I'll be knocking.
Yeah, the fever has not hit me yet. It's usually after just before the rookie draft and between the combine. In there is when the fever starts to build. And it's like, wait a second, the buzz is high on these guys. Maybe now is the time to strike to see if I can get in there early. Yeah. All right, folks. Well, that takes us to the end of this show. Josh, again, thank you very much for being on the show, buddy. It's always a pleasure to have you and to do this. Thank you very much for putting this all together, doing the research, looking up all the history of all the silly things we've done to put it together for us.
Thank you, guys. Really enjoy it each year.
Now, we are going to get together next week with a different co-host. So Andrew and I, we are going to be meeting up with, bear with me for a second, our league manager, Donnie. He's going to be coming back to do the NFC West divisional review. So come back next week as we get a chance to look at that. Until then, thank you very much for listening to the show, guys. Always a pleasure having you here from one poor man to another. Remember, if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. Good night, everybody.
Take care, guys.
Everybody.